Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Keynote ArtLinks 2021 session, Plant a Revolution, Gardening as Community Rejuvenation. We're very excited to have South Central Los Angeles native Ron Finley as our guest speaker to tell us how his gardening is gangsta philosophy inspires urban communities to bring beauty and economic opportunities to neighborhoods. Unafraid and unapologetic, Ron's approach teaches communities to use gardening to develop the confidence and skill to make changes in other aspects of their residents' lives. And as a follow-up to Ron, we asked local community garden coordinator Chris Wyman to tell us more about Dunbar Garden's efforts to increase access to quality local foods and support the development of urban teaching gardens within our community. Before we get started, I'd like to point out that all sessions are closed captioned and recorded. Although you can see and hear the panelists, you as attendees are muted and cannot be seen. We do see who has signed in, however, and we'll be able to communicate with you if we need information. During the panel discussion, the Q&A panel is working, and you will have the opportunity to post questions by typing them at any time during the presentation. Just click on the icon in the bottom menu. We will collect your questions during the discussion and pass them on to the speakers once they have finished their presentations. Scarlett Sims will be our moderator, and I'm going to turn the session over to Scarlett now. Thanks. You're muted.
Thank you. I'm sorry. We're so excited to have Ron and Chris here with us today. And before we get started with questions, let's take a moment to listen to Ron Finley's TED Talk, just to get some background and some context of what we'll be talking about.
I live in South Central. This is South Central. Liquor stores, fast food, vacant lots. So the city planners, they get together and they figure they're going to change the name South Central to make it represent something else. So they change it to South Los Angeles. Like this is going to fix what's really going wrong in the city. This is South Los Angeles. Liquor stores, fast food, vacant lots. Just like 26.5 million other Americans, I live in a food desert. South Central Los Angeles, home of the drive-through and the drive-by. Funny thing is, the drive-throughs are killing more people than the drive-bys. People are dying from curable diseases in South Central Los Angeles. For instance, the obesity rate in my neighborhood is like 5 times higher than, say, Beverly Hills, which is like probably 8-10 miles away. I got tired of seeing this happening. And I wonder, how would you feel if you had no access to healthy food? If every time you walk out your door, you see the ill effects that the present food system have on your neighborhood? I see wheelchairs bought and sold like used cars. I see dialysis centers popping up like Starbucks. And I figured this has to stop. So I figured that the problem is the solution. Food is the problem, and food is the solution. Plus, I got tired of driving 45 minutes round trip to get an apple that wasn't impregnated with pesticides. So what I did, I planted a food forest in front of my house. It's on a strip of land that we call a parkway. It's like 150 feet by like 10 feet. The thing is, it's owned by the city, but you have to maintain it. So I'm like, cool. I can do whatever the hell I want. Since it's my responsibility and I got to maintain it, and this is how I decided to maintain it. So me and my group, LA Green Grounds, we got together and we started planting my food forest, fruit trees, the whole nine, for vegetables. What we do, we're a pay-it-forward kind of group, where it's composed of like gardeners from all walks of life from all over the city, and it's completely volunteer, and everything we do is free. And in the garden, it was beautiful. And then somebody complained. The city came down on me. and basically gave me a citation saying that I had to remove my garden, which this citation would turn into a warrant. And I'm like, come on, really? A warrant for planting food on a piece of land that you could care less about? And I was like, cool, bring it. Because this time it wasn't coming out. So LA Times got hold of it. Steve Lopez did a story on it and talked to the councilman. And one of the Green Grounds members, they put up a petition on change.org. And with 900 signatures, we were a success. We had a victory on our hands. My councilman even called and said how they endorse and love what we're doing. I mean, come on, why wouldn't they? LA leads the United States in vacant lots that the city actually owns. They own 26 square miles of vacant lots. That's 20 Central Parks. That's enough space to plant 725 million tomato plants. Why in the hell would they not okay this? Growing one plant will give you 1,000, 10,000 seeds. Okay. When $1 worth of green beans will give you like $75 worth of produce. It's my gospel. I'm telling people, grow your own food. Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Thank you. See, I have a legacy in South Central. I grew up there. I raised my sons there. And I refuse to be a part of this manufactured reality that was manufactured for me by some other people, and I manufactured my own reality. See, I'm an artist. Gardening is my graffiti. I grow my art. Just like a graffiti artist, where they beautify walls, I beautify lawns, parkways. I use the garden, the soil, like it's a piece of cloth. And the plants and the trees, that's my embellishment for that cloth. You'd be surprised what the soil could do if you let it be your canvas. You just couldn't imagine how amazing a sunflower is and how it affects people. So what happened? I have witnessed my garden become a tool for the education, a tool for the transformation of my neighborhood. To change the community, you have to change the composition of the soil. We are the soil. You'd be surprised how kids are affected by this. Gardening is the most therapeutic and defiant act you can do, especially in the inner city. Plus, you get strawberries. I remember this time, there was this mother and a daughter came. They were. It was like 10:30 at night, and they were in my yard. And I came out, and they looked so ashamed. And I'm like, man, it made me feel bad that they were there. And I told them, you don't have to do this like this. This is on the street for a reason. It made me feel ashamed to see people that was this close to me that was hungry, and this only reinforced why I do this. And people ask me, Finn, aren't you afraid people are going to steal your food? And I'm like, hell no, I ain't afraid they're going to steal it. That's why it's on the street. That's the whole idea. I want them to take it, but in the same time, I want them to take back their health. There's another time when I put a garden in this homeless shelter in downtown Los Angeles. The guys, they helped me unload the truck. It was cool. They just shared the stories about how this affected them and how they used to plant with their mother and their grandmother. And it was just cool to see how this changed them if it was only for that one moment. So Green Grounds has gone on to plant maybe like 20 gardens. We've had like 50 people come to our dig-ins and participate in this, all volunteers. If kids grow kale, kids eat kale. If they grow tomatoes, they eat tomatoes. But when none of this is presented to them, if they're not shown how food affects the mind and the body, they blindly eat whatever the hell you put in front of them. I see young people and they want to work, but they're in this thing where they're caught up. I see kids of color and they just on this track that's designed for them that leads them to nowhere. So with gardening, I see an opportunity where we can train these kids to take over their communities, to have a sustainable life. And when we do this, who knows? We might produce the next George Washington Carver. But if we don't change the composition of the soil, we will never do this. Now this is one of my plans. This is what I want to do. I want to plant a whole block of gardens where people can share in the food in the same block. I want to take shipping containers and turn them into healthy cafes. And now don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about no free shit, because free is not sustainable. The funny thing about sustainability, you have to sustain it. What I'm talking about is putting people to work and getting kids off the street and letting them know the joy, the pride, and the honor in growing your own food. Opening farmers markets. So what I want to do here, we got to make this sexy. So I want us all to become ecolutionary, renegades, gangsters, gangster gardeners. We got to we got to flip the script on what a gangster is. If you ain't a gardener, you ain't gangster. Get gangster with your shovel, okay? And let that be your weapon of choice. So basically, if you want to meet with me, if you want to meet, don't call me. If you want to sit around in cushy chairs and have meetings where you talk about doing some shit, If you want to meet with me, come to the garden with your shovel so we can plant some shit. Peace. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing to see how urban gardens can fundamentally change and improve our lives and communities. This concept is exactly what ArtLinks is all about this year. For the past 2 days of convening, we've been talking about how to create and improve the places in which we live and want to live. The overall theme has centered around creative placemaking and community building. We want to see communities come together and unite and actually create a better quality of life for everyone. And we believe this can happen through the arts and gardening. We can see how urban gardens tie into this concept, and but can the panelists, by the way, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us your thoughts about gardening, how gardening influences or contributes to the arts or culture of a place?
Ron, by all means.
All right, Chris. They just heard from me.
Very true. And I have to say, honored to be on this panel with you. And, what you're doing is very much an inspiration. I've been doing urban agriculture for, going on like 12 years now. And absolutely, it is such an artistic, creative outlet, and the therapy behind it and what it can do for you mentally and spiritually, and what it can do for you as making you into a better person. And that's definitely our mission. Same with yours, Ron, at Dunbar Gardens, is to be able to help build up the community and to change things, change the soil composition. So through gardening, that's how we have our, visual expression of art. That is our canvas over there. Same as yours, Ron. And what Dunbar is there to do is to really be an educational resource for others to start gardens. So, and for the youth to learn about where their food comes from, to learn about sustainability, to learn about environmentalism, and then, mixing that with some science curriculum and really giving them a hands-on experience. So that's what we shoot for over there for sure.
And I totally agree with what you just said. I mean, to me, gardens equal freedom. freedom from this oppressive system that's been set up, where kids do not have a clue where their food comes from, where it's grown, how it's grown, what it is. We need food 101, just like we need happy 101 in every school there is. You know, it's like you tell a kid to eat healthy and it's like, oh, give me some Takis, give me this, you know, because it's constantly being bombarded to them on TV. You know, you tell a kid to be happy and they've never seen happy in their life. They don't know what it looks like. They don't know what it smells like. They don't know what it tastes like. So why we should be telling these kids about value. To me, the garden is not about food. It's about humanity. And how do we get back to humanity? Because we're not there no more. We teach our kids from day one, and we allow this in these schools where we're training kids to be greedy bastards. You know, we're training kids that things give you value. And we got to tell, nothing that you can buy, nothing gives you value. You bought it. So how is it more valuable than you? And I think that would solve a lot of problems. It's like Chris was saying, it's like if we get these kids in the soil and we literally show them, you can't call it nothing else but magic. I mean, when you put a seed in the ground and all of a sudden you got a tree that will feed you for 300 years. You know, we want to talk about ROIs, rate of returns, rate of investment. I mean, plant a tree. And this is about having these kids not thinking out the box, not living outside the box. There is no box. Okay, let's start there. Let's just live. Let's just let the roots from their minds and their energy just flow wherever it wants to flow. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm doing with the Ron Finley project, is just unleashing creativity. Because I mean, when you think of, you know, people say, how do you go from art, from fashion and art to gardening? I'm like, it's the same thing. Where do you think fabric come from? Where do you think colors come from? I mean, it's like I got these, I mean, when you look, I got these, just happen to have these sunflowers. But when you look at this blend of color, I mean, who does that but nature, you know? And it's like, so much inspiration just comes from nature. So I agree with him.
Why do you think gardens actually have the power to pull people together, like that unity? Is it a natural, organic, or did you have to go out? Like, how does it create that unity that we're seeking to sort of bring everyone together and create a better place?
Well, when you realize that we are soil, I mean, it's easy. What do we turn back into? We're carbon. You know, I mean, life comes out of soil and life goes back into soil. I mean, I tell people, be the forest, not the forest, the forest. What happens in a forest? You know, that tree drops to the ground and it starts decomposing. It becomes a habitat for certain insects and animals. And then what does it turn to? It turns into compost. It's real simple. What are we? When you look at what we are, we're energy. And if you, like Chris was saying, you take it back to school. This is a science class. What happens to energy? Nothing. It never dies. You know, it's always there. You think about the fact we're not teaching these kids that we're spinning around on a ball in outer space, but we're looking for aliens. You know, so it's stuff like that. We teach them to pledge their allegiance to what? To humanity, to themselves, to air, the single most important thing to your life. No. So that's where I'm at. It's not a stretch. You know, we are nature. It's not nature. You don't go, look over there, let's go put our galoshes on and our hiking boots and go see nature. Look in the mirror if you want to see nature. And I think if we taught, especially kids at an early age, and we kept it in, you know, till they become adults, they're going to look at this planet a different way. They're going to treat it a different way. They're not going to trash it. They're going to realize that I am a part of this planet, you know. And that's, to me, that's the simplest form.
Man, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And just like you said, Ron, yeah, we're all organic material, you know, so let's get to the very root of how, you know, we're helping to better life, but also to create it. And one of the key words that I heard in the question was unity. And a community garden it brings that. Folks get curious. They come in, being able to experience creating that and growing your own food, teaching another person, folks starting to work together, really that eventually branches out into folks working together in other aspects of the community, and it does build strength. So, and as a community garden or an urban farm, anything of that nature, even in the arts, with maybe like free galleries or just people being able to express themselves artistically starts to help others to get that bravery to do it themselves as well. And the energy, like you said, Ron, a great word for it all, that transference of energy for us all back and forth, positive energy, helps to create such a strength among individuals, and then so much more when we do everything together. So the unity of that, is very important.
You just used something I was going to say. 2 words. Is just that: together and grow. 2 words can be turned 2 different ways. Together we grow. That's 3, and we grow together. When we
Absolutely
we grow together. So that's what happens in a community garden. That's what happens, period. That's good. That's how we build neighborhoods. This food scarcity is some BS. It's like, it's not a food, it's a distribution situation that sometimes is on purpose. But if we start growing all our food collectively, so much is going to change, from the health consequences to crime to people are going to embrace their community more, because they have a vested interest for it. We got to show these kids that there's also a financial component in gardening. You can turn trash into money. If all you worry about is money, it's like they got this stuff called trash that you put it in. You can put it on the concrete and it's going to turn into soil, which is now compost, and you can sell that. Same thing with worms. Let's teach them the economics about worms. You take trash, throw some worms in there, and the worm's gonna have so much sex that they're gonna multiply and multiply and multiply. Now guess what you can sell? Worms, but you can also sell the worm castings, the worm food. So we're not taught that these economic systems that are right here in nature. Why? Because we're trained to go out and work and work for this dollar, whereas we have resources right in front of us, and we're not training each other to look at ourselves as resources, which is what we is. And that would turn the clock back for real.
Yeah, I really also like this idea that the energy, it doesn't stop, and from what I'm getting from this is like sometimes positive energies can be contagious. So like Absolutely. You're out there, you're being positive, you're planting something, it's growing, that gives somebody else that want or will to do that, and then it sort of trickles down to another person, sort of like a good contagion, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to think that it's just the opposite too. If somebody, all they see is violence, litter, all of the sickness, if that's their normal, that becomes, if they see that every day, they don't get to see, and they don't get to look over the fence and see the green pastures and the 14-foot sunflowers. But this becomes your normal. So when you see this beauty, it affects you sometimes in a negative way, because it's so different. Hit it with a rock, pull it out the ground, burn it and I've seen this happen. I'm speaking, I mean, because of the garden that I have on the parkway outside, it's almost like made me a urban sociologist, an urban anthropologist, because I see how people who are not used to seeing beauty or seeing life and vegetation, it shocks some of them. But some people are like, whoa, look at, where'd this come from? It's a jungle. I had these kids that since they were in their strollers, now they're in the wagons, now they're walking. The father and their grandmother, they are, for years they've been, I want to go to the jungle. And they're talking about the place in front of my house. They call it their jungle. And that I mean, you can't get, that's okay, I'm done. It gets no better than that, to hear a kid walk by your house and say, my jungle. I mean, that's why, yes, why can't everybody feel like that? And they can. We can design these cities where they work for us and not for commerce, because that's what they're made for. Cities are not designed for people. They're designed for commerce, period. You know?
Well, and that brings me to my next question. I know both of you are involved with the arts or have arts backgrounds. You're artists, basically, at heart.
Yeah,
And
everybody's
also,
an artist, though, Scarlett. Everybody on the planet is an artist. They
yes,
might
but
not.
you are specifically have a background in the arts and, fashion, textile. I'm talking about like everybody can be creative, everybody can be an artist, but not everybody actually chooses to do that. Both of you have and have that kind of background. And I was wondering how that background in the arts has influenced how you plant your gardens, design your gardens, use your gardens.
Yes.
And I actually, I do everything by the number 3. That's a good way to put it, I guess, with the arts background. Whenever I am planting, I do like staggered planting methods of 3s. And I think that 3 is a very spiritual number to me. So I think that's really why I utilize it. When I was younger and I was learning all of this from my grandmother, I never thought that I would actually be doing this into, I'm almost 37 now and didn't think I would be doing that through my 20s and actually, really getting to see the benefits of it, that it's done for me physically, mentally, spiritually. I didn't consider myself much of an artist because I wasn't a painter.
Right.
I wrote a little bit, but it was really the idea of an artist was kind of the very stereotypical idea, which is, a painter or someone that can draw. And I had really, I guess, felt like I had no way of expressing myself artistically until I realized and changed my perception that I was doing so in gardening and in horticulture and in creating beauty. So once I was able to finally see that, it was something where I wanted to do that as much as possible. Unfortunately, I live in an apartment right now. I used to live in a home, but with a backyard. But luckily, I have that creative outlet of Dunbar, and I have the creative outlet to be able to give free consultation to help others to create, to design, and it was definitely a changing point in my life when I finally had that moment of clarity where I was doing something artistic and I was in fact an artist. So
I think mine came from being dyslexic. I didn't get it in school. I couldn't figure, it didn't, I didn't read the way that they're supposed to. So according to them, and I mean, so I didn't, and they just push you through, even though you're not figuring it out. But I'm glad, and anybody out there with kids with these so-called learning disabilities, that's their superpower. And you should have them embrace it and enhance it, because if I wasn't dyslexic, I would think like everybody. And I'm so glad I don't, because that took me, I don't see the same. I don't see what you see. You're looking at something, you're looking at the main thing, you're looking at the flower, but I'm looking at the shadow that the flower casts. Do you see that shadow? So it made me think differently about almost everything. To see differently, because I had to figure things out differently and not the way that you showed me that it works. So, and that puts me on a thing now where when I talk to, teachers associations and schools, and I tell them, screw your standardized education, because nobody's standard. We're all custom. And that's what I studied tailoring at a very early age. And I'm like, I want my whole life to be custom. I want everything, my sheets, my car, my shop, my clothes. And it let me know that we shouldn't all think alike, and that's where the whole think outside the box. Well, you already put us in a box. Now you want us to leave the box? Make up your mind. You trained me my whole life to think the same as everybody, to wear the same thing, to do the same thing, to get on the freeway and drive to work for 2 hours. That's normal. So no, mine came from the fact that I loved using my hands. I love building. I love, when I was younger, I just love arts and crafts, everything from weaving to, making clothes was my creative outlet, totally. And it also showed me patience, a lot of patience, because you realize that if you really want to do something right, it takes time. And that with that, it takes patience. So that it taught me that early on. But with the garden, it's the same thing. It's a creative outlet. And we should with that tell, especially kids, that storytelling. It's not some linear track that everybody does the same. Let them be creative. They're like, okay, start at the beginning. No, I want to start at the end and go to the middle and go back to the beginning and then go back to the end. So it's like, but we don't give them those freedom in the way we teach kids with this standardized education. And I talk to creatives from companies, all kinds of companies from Netflix to different, talk to their creative departments. And I always ask, have you seen the movie Sunset Boulevard? I think, yeah, it starts off with a dead man floating in the swimming pool. You've seen this guy, he's floating in the swimming pool, telling his story. He starts the movie off. That's the end of the movie. So I tell you don't have to tell a story the way you feel it and what you want to feel. And we don't really give those kind of instructions to kids in school. So everybody writes the same, everybody thinks the same, and it shouldn't be. You should be able to celebrate who you are and what you are, and a teacher should be able to bring that out in you, in every student. So to hell with your standardized education.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and beyond that, you've also been able to incorporate other artists' work into your gardens or at least from what I'm read, and reuse some things that maybe people wouldn't think about as part of your gardens that sort of creates more, I don't know, it's not, maybe not more art isn't the right word, but it definitely creates this ability to reuse, what is that art trend where people are reusing objects as part of the landscape and incorporate new and maybe things that people haven't thought about incorporating into your gardens. I'm thinking murals and a shoe, I think I read.
We got everything here: boots, tables, crates. I look at, if you can hold some soil and drill a hole in it, I'm putting a plant in it. It's real simple. And I think that's another thing, is showing people the resources around you that aren't trash. That can be, let's use it till it's one molecule. It's just broke down that much, and that's what we're doing. Even coffee pots, teapots. If it can hold soil, and you think, like, you go to these stores and you see these the pots and pans, those are perfect. Those are perfect for gardening. And even starters, things like that. We need to use all that.
I totally agree with that. It's not trash until it's, just completely dilapidated to the point where you can't use it, and we're the same way at Dunbar, man. If I can get a bathtub and create vermiculture in there, then boom, that's a great vermiculture bin.
It's never going to go nowhere. Those bathtubs are never, ever, ever.
That thing's going to stay there forever. Ever. So we actually use shipping containers too on the 2 acres that Dunbar is, and we don't want just a plain colored shipping containers. So we invite community members in to paint those, and to really express themselves on that canvas. Yeah, man.
That's my shipping container right there.
Right on. Ours looks, we've got a similar stuff going on.
We're growing on top of it.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, man. Any usable space we can find, right?
Well, right now we're in the swimming. This is a swimming pool that I'm in right now. My garden is literally in a swimming pool.
Very cool, man.
So you want to talk about reusing stuff?
Yeah, man. I'd rather reuse it than it go in a landfill.
Yeah, no, and I think we need to. That's a lesson that we need to know, because where's it going?
Right.
You know, do you have any clue where it's going? No, and this whole thing that this disposable economy that we have here is just to keep you, turn your money. It's another thing that keeps us on the hamster wheel. You have to have the newest of the new of the new. So I think, a lot of these companies, that should be a mandate on them that your stuff has to last X amount of time. Like stuff did last, like, back when I was a kid in the 1800s. I mean, stuff lasted for years,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to how much trash we can accumulate as humans. And so like one of the big important things we like to teach is composting, and what we food scraps and coffee grounds and newspapers, explain what you shouldn't put in a compost. But that whole process is such a great teaching tool for young and old, just so people can really learn as to wow, this stuff turns right back into nutrient rich soil. This is what we need to do every time we want to turn this plot over. We need to make sure that soil is healthy.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same way with tilling soil. We don't till, because what you're doing when you till the soil, you're exposing it to this thermonuclear thing in the sky called the sun, and it's destroying all of the stuff that wants to be in the ground. It's doing their work in the ground.
Right.
We're burning them up, and that's that's what kind of happened in the Dust Bowl. They wouldn't replenish the soil. They just kept planting, killed the topsoil, killed everything in the soil, and they couldn't grow anything in it. And I mean, these are lessons learned, but the thing about it, they're still doing these practices.
Oh yeah.
So we've talked a lot about students and youth and getting them engaged. How can the public education system incorporate some of the ideas into their curriculum?
I don't think we have that much time.
I don't either, but that was a question from Janice Kearney. So if you guys have like a sentence or two, I think she's a pretty wonderful person. So.
Go, Chris.
Well, so we our work with Dunbar Middle School and Gibbs Elementary, but then also being available to youth groups, church groups, other schools for garden tours and garden curriculum. We actually are not affiliated with the school district in any way. That was, we have 2 adjacent schools to us. Why not teach the kids, get them out there? It would make no sense to not offer that. And we would love at some point at the moment, COVID kind of put a stop to our kids coming out, unfortunately. And then also we are a partnership with Little Rock Parks and Rec. So we are on Parks and Rec land. We are a 501c3 that is partnered with Little Rock Parks and Rec. So we get some funding from the city. Of course, we would love to have more. We can incorporate more educational curriculum. So we're hoping to get back to that point once we really, find, everybody says get back to normal, but really, we're in a new age. And when we get back to the point, new normal is what. So, really what we can do now is we can just offer things and hope we can get folks to come out to an open space and to learn something or just enjoy themselves out amongst nature, and to, really it can be difficult at times trying to work with the school district, and we wish we could do a lot more. And that's something that every year changes. We have to look at other educational grant opportunities, or we have to, start talks with the school district again as to how we can incorporate more education. Do we need to get a certified teacher out there? Things like that. Sometimes we got to work for that one, but it never stops us from being able to incorporate the educational aspect. So
I had a situation where, they had me working with a school, and next thing I know, I had the school detectives calling me on the phone, because of some stuff, not because I did nothing, but there was something that the guys that were running the program had done, and they brought me into the program. I'm like, Chris, it's too hard to work with because they have their mandates and they have this curriculum, and again, it's standardized and you can't change it. They know X amount of students are not learning. They know that because you're not giving them what they want. Edible education, like with edible schoolyard, should be in every school. It should be a requirement. Kids should know how to grow, harvest, cook, sell this food that they can grow out the ground. But it's not. And why isn't it? Why aren't you showing these kids what nutrition means? Why aren't you showing them what healthy food means? Why are you feeding them this slap? Why can't kids get organic meals in school? You know, why? You know what this food is doing to them. Your food should heal you, not kill you. And it is killing them. You know, they don't have the proper nutrients, so you know their brain's not going to function right. You know this. So working with the schools the way they are right now, I've tried. I'm good. You know, it's like, okay, you guys, you got this system and it works for you, but is it working for these students? No. And what would it take for you to just tweak your formula a little and to make the system work for the school, for these kids, you know, and show them what true education is, show them how to be healthy, teach them what happiness is, you know, teach them how to grow their own food, because it's a life skill, but we don't treat it like that, you know, and with that, I think it's a handicap that we're not treating it like that. And something like the fact that, like Chris, he's between two schools. I got a school across the street from me that I'm banned from because I wanted to fix the garden, you know. And it's like these kids are looking at this blight every day that could be an epicenter for creativity and nourishment, and it's been like that for years. They refused. I was going to do this on my own dime, but I don't know. I think their agendas are just totally different than ours.
Yeah, I could see that. It seems like some education has become kind of controversial, and it's arts and garden, social justice and history can all tie into that.
Yep.
So to get around that and to actually reach the youth, do you guys more use community or arts services, churches? Like how do you attract your youth to teach them?
Yeah. Well, now I do workshops here. I have an event that I do in the park, in this certain park every year. You can look up, it's called The Function. You should use it and take it. It's like the fun. Fun is the operating word in there. You know, fun should be a part of functioning, and it's free. And it's everything from double Dutch to making mosaics to painting to circus performing, learning circus performing, and making your own body scrubs and all kinds, and it's all free. I supply it, and people, and the big giant bubble wands, and people are like, well, why can't we have this every day? I'm like, it's a jump rope. You can have this every day, so we don't even know how to have fun. We think we need to have permission. And so I get them like that. I mean, if we had a thing in the schools, we could get serious numbers constantly, but even in the schools, they bring you in once a year. These kids need this compound. They need to learn this stuff compound. They need to see that alchemy and magic of putting that seed in the ground. And then all of a sudden they have a corn crop. And then all of a sudden, because what we were doing, Boom Chicka Pop gave me tons and tons of seeds, popcorn seeds. And kids don't know that popcorn seeds and corn is a different, kind of seed. So we had them growing. We have them growing popcorn, and then they have a class where they can cook the popcorn. They take it home, and now they're cooking popcorn. So I mean, and to me, that just triggers so much in their head that, wow, look, I grew this out this kernel has hundreds of other, each kernel is hundreds of other kernels, but we don't look at it like that. You take a watermelon, you look at the seeds in the water, that little teeny seed in that water has a watermelon in it. And that watermelon has another 100,000 watermelons in it. No one trains us, guys, to look at this, the little teeny tiny seed like that. You know, and you think that all of that, there's a million seed in one teeny seed.
So, and we've talked a little bit about, we've talked a lot about children.
I didn't hear that, Scarlett.
Sorry, we've talked a lot about children. I have a question now about working with the elderly and maybe helping with their mental health, Alzheimer's. Is that something that you guys do, work with maybe older people?
We do actually. We've incorporated what are called Keyhole Gardens in the garden, which are cool little raised bed system that you're actually